In part 3 of this series, we began our quest to understand why death exists in this realm. This led to the discovery that it is here due to the divine and universal principle of sowing and reaping. For unless a seed falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. So, essential to the death of a seed is its falling into the ground. Is this important in our consideration? Absolutely. Please consider. The first man was from the earth, a man of dust. The second man is from heaven. As was the man of dust, so also are those who are of the dust. And as is the man of heaven, so also are those who are of heaven. Just as we have borne the image of the man of dust, we shall also bear the image of the man of heaven. According to Paul, the first or natural man is from the earth, a man of dust. In keeping with this, Jesus taught in the parable of the sower that the ground refers to the human heart or spirit, establishing that all of this happens within the heart and mind. Paul is clear. All bear the image of the man of dust, image meaning a likeness or representation, agreeing with the understanding that Adam represents all humankind in its natural state, typified by the fact that all are formed from the earth or dust. Now, consider the following. And dust shall be the serpent's food. No doubt this statement is symbolic, for a snake does not eat dirt. So, what is meant by this? I believe the following tells us. Jesus said to them, "My food is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work." Where food typifies one's will or desire, eating typifies the actions springing from this desire. Now, let's go to Matthew. But he turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me, for you are not mindful of the things of God, but the things of men." According to Revelation 12:9, the serpent is Satan, and Satan is mindful of the things of men rather than the things of God. So, coupled with what Jesus said in John 4:34, might dust denote the things of men, since we were fashioned from it? Might this connect to the appearance of the serpent in Genesis 3:1, as well as to John's assessment in 1 John 2:15 through 17, about all that is in the world? Did not the Lord tell the serpent, "On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life"? Belly refers to one's appetites, literally or figuratively. I believe it's appropriate to say that the image of the man of dust refers to the essence of the natural man, eventually leading to the mindset focused on the things of men. I say eventually because when we are first born into this world, we are innocent, a blank slate with no knowledge of good or evil. This is our beginning as a living soul. Where Genesis 2:7 tells us that we begin as a living soul, Ezekiel 18:4 tells us that the soul who sins shall die. So, as the Genesis parable goes, Adam and Eve sinned and died. Now, to better understand, we must define what sin is. The Apostle John called it the transgression of the law. What did the Lord tell Adam? "You may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die." As we know, Adam and Eve ate of this tree, thereby bringing death into their being. Now, if sin brings death, so too the tree of knowledge of good and evil, then this tree symbolizes the law. Otherwise, Adam and Eve's actions would not be described as sin. Paul clarifies, stating, "By the law is the knowledge of sin." In other words, knowledge of good and evil, and again, I would not have known sin except through the law. Now, look at what Paul told Timothy. For Adam was first formed, then Eve, and Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression. Adam was not deceived. If this is true, might this suggest that Adam willfully disobeyed God's commandment to not eat from the tree of knowledge? Why would he do this? I believe our answer is twofold. First, we must remember that the natural man does not receive the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him. Secondly, we must consider the following. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace, because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, nor indeed can be. So then, those who are in the flesh cannot please God. Here, Paul defines death as carnally minded, not natural minded, but carnally minded. The English Standard Version renders carnally minded as to set the mind on the flesh, agreeing with John's assessment in 1 John 2 and what Jesus said in Matthew 16:23. The idea of natural, then carnal, suggests a transition, a move from living to dying, illustrated by the seed falling into the ground and correlating with Adam and Eve eating from the tree of knowledge. This transition from natural to carnal is typified by the seed falling into the ground to die, for a seed doesn't die the moment it enters the ground. It takes time. Same is true for you and me. Our shift from natural to carnal, from living to dying, is gradual. And since Adam was not deceived, we must ask ourselves what it was that prompted his disobedience. The answer is found in the following. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. What moved Adam from natural to carnal? A haughty spirit, that is, pride, which in Proverbs 16 is defined as arrogance. Oxford Languages defines arrogant as having or revealing an exaggerated sense of one's own importance or abilities. Now, with this in mind, reconsider 1 John 2:16. All that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, and the desires of the eyes, and pride in possessions, is not from the Father, but is from the world. When pride forms, we begin our descent into carnality. For when we are natural, we simply consider the things of the Spirit of God as foolish. However, once we are carnal, we exhibit enmity or hostility against God, thereby resisting His law, our lack of humility preventing us from knowing peace. This state of being is reflected in our treatment of one another. For John wrote, "If someone says, 'I love God,' and hates his brother, he is a liar. For he who does not love his brother whom he has seen, how can he love God whom he has not seen?" The natural person is motivated by the desires of the flesh and eyes, but the carnal person is motivated by self-importance, thereby corrupting the natural desires. So it is that the first part of the principle of sowing and reaping applies to sowing to our flesh, or natural and carnal mindedness. Amazingly, the pride that arises so quickly in our young lives actually becomes the necessary element needed to humble us. For the suffering it brings is what prompts us to turn from our self-importance to loving others.